Welcome everybody. This is my first recording on EU4. We're going to be trying the achievement run of Idea Guy. This is where you start with a 1-1-1 province. You create your own nation to a maximum of 800 points. We're going to call ourselves the Australian Trade Company. And the reason we're doing that is because, as you can see, the Australian note is right here, and if you look closely you'll notice that there's nobody in it. So that means we can secure every single province in the Australian trade node. Now I've seen many people start here because you can pretty much lock up the trade node here as well, but as you notice it's a little smaller than the Australian trade node. And I've also seen people start it in the Americas. Each location has its own benefits. Here you can start fighting the natives. There's a bunch of gold provinces here, and there's a bunch of gold provinces here. So you can get a lot of income via your gold provinces. However, then you're dealing with first inflation, which you have to curb, and then you have the Europeans, when they start their colonization, are going to start colonizing Africa, then moving over here to the Americas. So here it can be done. I just find if you're not secure enough, the Europeans can cause you some serious issues. Same goes here with Africa. If they choose to continue down the African coast, they could cause you problems, although it's rather unlikely. The other now for here, the reason I chose this location is, like I said earlier, that nobody is in the Australian trade node, so we can lock it down pretty quickly. But then we have several expansion options. We can either go into the Asian area, which has a lot of development-rich provinces. If Ming implodes, we can then go up over here. But if we're restricted in this direction, we can also island hop over to the Americas and come by the west coast, where the Europeans will be starting on the east coast. Now, with all that said, there's my reasoning for picking the Australian trade node. Now this is going to be the country we're going to go with. It's the Australian Trade Company. The short version is just Australia. This just came from random selection, and I chose yellow because, well, it's the closest color I could find to the color of ducats. Our government is, we're going to start with a 666 advisor. We can drop his age down a little bit. Not that it really matters, but just so we can fill up the full country points. We're going with Aboriginal culture. Why? It was the default. We're going with this religion because it's the only one that has a trade or income factor in the religion. All the rest don't have this. We're picking the Western tech group for obvious reasons. If you've ever started your own country, it's the best one. Dutch Republic. Every 4 years we're going to have an election, which means we can pick a good leader or such, whichever leader we want every 4 years. We're going to start at the base Republic government rank, and we'll just upgrade as our development gets there. The ideas that we're picking, we're going with income generating and colonist generation. Tax modifier, get more money from tax. Production efficiency, we get more money from production. Then we get into our global settlers. Then we got development cost, because we're probably going to be doing a lot of development. Core creation cost, well, we're going to be doing a lot of core creation as well. Global tariffs, that's just more income. Trade efficiency, once again, more income. colonists to help our expansion, trade steering, once again, more income, and yearly inflation reduction. This is, I figure by about this point, when we pop out all our ideas, is where we're going to really need the yearly inflation reduction. We may find a few gold mines here, but really where it's going to come in handy is when we start conquering countries and taking their money. We want to be able to reduce the inflation we're going to get from doing that. There's lots of rich countries over here. So let's just get right into it. As you can tell, oh, by the way, as you can tell, our distribution is admin 50%, diplomatic 50%, and military is going to be basically none. The reason I chose that is because we're going to be so far ahead of the Eastern techs with our technology that just superior troops are going to do the job for us. So let's get into it. And just so you know, this is going to be a rather slow campaign, at least for the first 100 years. I can't seem to type. ATC, Australian Trade Company. As you can see, this is all we know, other than where our Western tech gives us visualization of this, which I'm not sure exactly why. Because we shouldn't have any knowledge of those guys. What we're going to be doing first off is colonizing this little territory, then into this territory. This is the important natural harbor. Basically, this is the trade node, center of trade. So let's get started. At the beginning, income is going to be an issue because, as you can tell, we're only making 1.77 ducats. And once we start colonizing, it's going to cost us 2.14, I believe, per month. So since we don't have any enemies around us, we don't really need these troops, so we're going to get rid of them. We'll deal with troops later. As you can see, we're now earning 1.77 ducats each month. Basically what we're going to do is build up a bank as much as we can before we start colonizing. Oh, it looks like I started with a gold mine. Well, that's a nice little twist. So we're actually making 66.66 ducats more than a non-gold mine. Maybe we'll keep our capital here. I was originally going to move my capital here, but with the gold here, that capital would be actually a very good spot to stay here. Anyways, set up our trade. Not that it's going to make much of a difference, but we got them, we might as well use them. We don't have any need for diplomats right at the moment. Just make sure we got everything set up. Neither of these are necessary. Stability 2. So basically stability 2 and a theologian, we can get missionary strength. Not a major thing that we need at the moment. We can increase our stability up and it'll give us more income and less unrest, but neither are really a major issue right at the moment. Like I said, with this religion we get trade efficiency of 10%, which is good for a money-making country. I'm pretty sure that's all it is. Now we can afford to take a advisor and our admin, but once again, money is going to be an issue as soon as we start colonizing. Now we're going to focus on admin, and it's going to be focused on admin pretty much the whole game, because as you can tell, we make our most money from tax income. So when we end up doing development, this is going to be the tax, and it takes admin Monarch Points to increase it. So plus we also got the chlorine and such. Basically, admin is going to be our major expenditure of Monarch Points. So basically what we're going to do for the first little bit is just pump her up to speed 5 and sit and wait until we can get our first idea group. Now the ideas we're going to take are going to be exploration and expansion for our first 2. We could go with expansion first, however, since we want to get to our second idea group as quick as possible, and to get to your second idea group, you're going to need Monarch Points to tech up. So we're going to stick with exploration first. By the time we finish this, we should be able to start into exploration. Now, after that, the ones I'm looking at are trade ideas, economic ideas, influential ideas, because if we can diplo-annex countries instead of conquering them, that would be more beneficial to us in the long run. We probably won't be taking any of these. So we're basically just going to be sticking in these 2 administration and diplomatic ideas. Another thing that's going to end up being an issue for us, at least at the start of the game, is going to be estates, trying to get them as happy as possible. The reason is we want to get the Merchants Guild to like us really well. We're also going to want the clergy to like us really well. Nobility, at least at the start of the beginning in the game, is not going to be too much issue because their bonuses, as you can see, are both on military, and we're not going to be doing military at least for the first 150 years, unless a good opportunity presents itself. So yep, this is the slow process. It's getting our power base set up before we start dealing with the outside world. Oh, in case you weren't aware, the whole purpose of the Idea Guy achievement is to have an income of 500 ducats a month. That's not a balance here of your income minus your expenses. It's just income. So this is where it's going to be our focus on, is just getting as much money as possible. As you can see, our inflation is already starting to go up, mainly because of our gold buying. The way I plan to get to the 500 is not necessarily through expansion. It's going to be mainly through buildings, which will give us income, and by doing development, which will give us income. If and when that direction ends up becoming too expensive on Monarch Points, we may do a little bit of expansion. June of next year, we should be able to get our first admin tech. Now, because we're going with our first idea of exploration, we're going to try and not spend any diplomatic points. That way, when we get it unlocked, hopefully we can at least get the first two ideas. Uniforms. Gain 3 inflation, or lose 1 stability. Well, since we need all the admin points we can deal with inflation, at least for the time being. Well, we're already up to 3.6 because of that. Only takes 75 admin to knock it down, so. Okay, there's our first admin tech. In 5 years we can take the next one. Assuming, of course, we've got our enough points. We're about to have our first election. Now with our government that we currently have, the Dutch Republic, we have two factions. We have the Orangists and the Statists. The Statists give us more trade, and the Oranges give us more military, basically. So we're going to try and keep our faction as far over to this side as we possibly can. Now, you do get events that affect this, but the majority of them come from elections, which will affect this. If I take this elector, the bar will shift 33% towards these guys. If I take the oranges, it'll go 33 to this side. Ideally, we want to pick this one. However, because Monarch Points are going to be our main focus to getting money, we have to look at how many Monarch Points we're going to get. On this one, we're going to get 4 plus 3 plus 1s. We're getting 8. And on this one, we're going to get 7. Ideally, I want to take the highest one, which will be this one. Plus, it's also going to the right direction for us, so it's a pretty simple choice for me, anyways, to pick this one. See, as long as they're in power and it's in this direction, we're getting the bonuses. Now, when we get our light ships built up, what we're going to be doing is pirateering. And we're going to be doing pirateering in this trade node, at least to start. We're going to lock up this one for ourselves. We're going to send our pirates over here. And then when we start expanding into this trade node, we may send our pirates over to the next one. And send our trade fleet here to collect trade. We'll make that decision when we get to that point. Now ideally we want to spend as little Monarch points as we can when we tech up. So perfection situation will be when we're behind time to tech up. We could tech up here, but like I said earlier that we're going to need a lot of Monarch points for our first idea, so we're going to hold on to these. Now we got to start watching our Monarch point cap. We can only have 999, so when we get close, we're going to start doing some development. Want to take the cash at the start, or do we want to gain the diplomatic power? I think we're going to go with diplomatic power. At our next election is when I'll be taking our first break. Which I believe is in 2 years. Shouldn't take us too long to get there on speed 5. Some of you may be wondering why I chose to pick colonists way far down in the list instead of right at the beginning so I can start colonizing right off the bat. The main reason is because right now we can't afford 2 colonists going at once. We can't even afford 1 colonist. And I figure by the time we get to this point, which will be on our 3rd idea, we'll already have 3 colonists working, and we should have enough income to be able to support the other 2. Gotta keep an eye on those. Any new missions? Nope. We could build a temple if we wanted to, but we gotta get our income higher than 2.14 so we can support that colonist. Or at least have a high enough bank that we can support them until we get the first colony completed. That's just me plugging in my phone so I can charge it. Whenever we get the option, we're always going to take this option, because mercantilism always helps us with our trade, and you should always take that if you can, no matter what country you're playing. Don't really care about Austria. It's going to be a long time before what affects them affects us. Alright, let's see what's going on in Europe. Not much has changed. Does Poland have their union? Yes, they have their union. Okay, it's time for our second election. Ooh, that looks good. It's 11, 14. Oh yeah. We're going to call a break here, and when we come back, we'll pick our next leader and continue on with this. Till next episode, see you then.